Ken Starr, and we have breaking news. AronRa's brain has been discovered in an abandoned hippie colony. Supposedly, his brain ran away. AronRa's brain ran away from him because AronRa only listened to his own dumb ass. Fact-checking, one must always do that. Fact-check. Damn commies! This is Ken Starr, and this has been the 2-Minute News.
Talk about genetic deficiencies. Not pitiful.
You, AronRa, you are a libelous liar. What proof I have? Well, it comes from your own two lips. Let's listen to what you had to say about Darwin.
He was born into a wealthy family, immersed in British imperialism, the most ethnocentric society on Earth at that time. Darwin rejected the prevailing prejudice of his day, and was one of the most egalitarian men of the 19th century. He often praised those he met from allegedly primitive cultures, and frequently criticized the bigotry of his peers against subjugated peoples. He found every aspect of slavery abominable, and these facts are all so plain in his writings that it can hardly be doubted.
Except you left out both of his grandfathers' Christian backgrounds. You know, the smart one, talented rich one. As they led the charge of abolitionists. During their time, that was a forbidden fruit. They took more punishment, criticism, but since they were elite in their field of profession, Darwin's grandfather could have been surgeon to the king, and his other grandfather coined a phrase, "Am I not a man and a brother?" But who knows? Morality is just a learned behavior. Let's see what other bullshit you got.
The story, and so do I, because there's no such thing as a balanced account of magical creationism. It is a bias, by definition and admission. Every religion makes essentially the same claims as yours does, but there are many ways to change the heart of a nation. Indoctrination and deception are your ways, but education and enlightenment work better than anything else. Those for whom truth really matters will look to those telling the truth, and will hear your ilk no more. For example, despite your bigoted stereotyping of infidels, I myself do not believe in sin. But like most rationalists, I already love that which is right and just and good, more so than many of the most devoutly religious believers do, and that's why I won't lie the way you always have to.
I find it odd that only atheists say that God is magical. In my opinion, and the people around me, our opinion is that God is the greatest scientist in the universe. He created it all. And if you look at it from an objective point of view, you'd see this is an experiment in process. There was a beginning, then there's an end process. But let's focus on Christians deceive people. I don't see that. We truly believe in what we believe. That's not a deception. It's our perception. You have your own perception. Let's look at atheists versus Christians. There's a greater number of Christians, and yes, there's going to be a greater number of crimes and pregnancies and so forth from the Christian population versus that of the atheists. But the percentages pretty much are equal. Only a dishonest person would not point that out, but thank you. Behind me is a map, and it has a purpose. If you ever heard of the pygmy tribe called the Taiwa, everything in green, like it says on the screen here, is their modern territories, their settlements. And that red mark down there is where they found supposedly new species. It's 4'9". Well, the pygmy Taiwa is 4'9" on average height. Who in the hell puts hair on a skull and smashes its nose down to make it look more monkey-like? Couldn't it be an ancestor of these tribes? I think so. Intellectually dishonest to assume, like fossils. Fossils say two things. Something lived and died. We can tell a lot by the fossils, like the ribs can tell us the age and the growth patterns of the creature. The second thing fossils tell us is that something gets smaller. Mammoths to elephants. T-Rex to the Arctic T-Rex. Snakes, centipedes. everything. Except I don't see Blackie anywhere on your list there. I mean, a 9-foot ape certainly make the list, wouldn't it? Well, unless that's intellectually dishonest of me to point that out. How can it be your way is right and my way is wrong? We're not there. There's no proof that there is God. There's no proof that there's evolution is a fact. That is the plain truth. It's all based on opinion. Now, here's something for you. We humans are nothing more than a swirling vortex of particle energy with a higher awareness than germs, plants, animals. So if we humans exist, then it is possible that God exists. There you go. There's a factoid for you. Did you know Hitler tried to seize control? Was imprisoned. I think it was March of 1924. Hitler and his other leaders were put on trial. High treason. During this time, he wrote Mein Kampf. Chapter 4, if you ever read it, he goes deeply into Darwin, of both eugenics and Darwin's evolution. Let me read you a couple passages. The strong must rule. It must not unite with the weaker, thus sacrificing its own stature. Only the weakling can think this cruel, and that is why he is weak. A defective man, for if this law did not hold, any conceivable evolution of organic living things would be unthinkable. Page 278. Always struggle. It means to improve the health and stamina of the species, and thus a cause of its evolution. By any other process, all development and evolution would cease, and the very reverse would take place. Page 278. Sounds a lot like Darwin when he was talking about eugenics.
For example, Darwin wrote against the favoritism of Caucasian invaders and opposed the genocide of indigenous natives. Despite all your allegations, not one aspect of Darwin's philosophy was shared by Adolf Hitler. Now, in your 50 pages of mined quotations, you have a couple of comments where Hitler discusses the evolution of contemporary politics. You found one guy who never knew Hitler, and apparently never read Hitler either, who obviously didn't know any better and gave no evidence for his allegations. And of course you have all of Hitler's other comments, wherein he loudly and proudly declared himself to be a creationist, and never implied otherwise in any speech, publication, or private discussion we have on record. Now, while he obviously saw theocracy as the greatest threat to his dominant ambition, his anti-Semitism was clearly inspired and driven by Christian teachers and his religious upbringing. Darwin's and Hitler's philosophies could not be any more at odds.
All right, hold up
you
here,
said
Mr.
there's an
Hater.
undeniable...
That's a little bigotry of you there. You know that? Saying they're at odds. How is he going to take over the government? He's got to pretend to be a Christian, even though if he does believe it or not. He killed over 3 million Christians. German Christians he killed too. So, yeah. And 500,000 Jehovah's Witnesses. But let's lighten things up. As Darwin's dad once said, all you do is shoot dogs and chase and catch rats. You gotta do something with your life. 5 things that make Charles Darwin a hillbilly. First, he likes shooting and killing. Started the Glutton Club. He married his first cousin. Yeah. Hates the sea. Gets seasick all the time. That's the reason why he spent so much time on the Galapagos Island. He dropped out of medical school, couldn't stand the sight of blood, never got a degree, except in philosophy. Was devout to his family.
Talk about genetic deficiencies. Isn't that pitiful?